around, don't get caught in the mosh pit. Fuel to the fire, ain't nobody can stop it. Trouble in my city, but you know I'm across it. Got a 40 on my hip and I'm liable to spark it. Throw down these hits, my click is indivisible. I aim, you duck, I squeeze, now you invisible. I'm not afraid of getting physical. All these different chemicals are fucking up my visuals. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yeah, we notorious, we ain't no runners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yeah, we some warriors, they ain't no runners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Put my strength on my beat, put on my back, put on my team. Take out every motherfucker in between. Know what I mean? Better my steps, better my aim, better my breath, better my name. Killing rappers on my hang 'em, but they change for the fame. Never thought I would, and now I'm running this. You don't wanna follow me, I'm like the book in front of this. I'm in a trouble, troops on the cannon, what we do. Battling and I never lose, we some motherfucking warriors.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Roommates Podcast.
Hello.
How are we all doing today?
So good.
So good. That was a weird
Wow.
song. It's one of the new ones on NCS, but little rappy and a little
Bollywood.
a little craziness happening there. And then I love how it just went straight into the drop of just
Transformer robot noise.
Do we just play like random whatever sounds good when we're starting up the podcast?
I play whatever's latest with NCS. Yeah,
Say eventually we should maybe like find a theme, like some intro.
that's what I said. I think it would be a good idea to do that.
Yeah, I want to find us a theme, but it's either we got to write it or we got to find one that we want to ride or die with. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was doing this one during it.
What, churning the butter?
Churning the butter, yes.
The
All right then.
the pre-live dance moves.
Yes. We got a loaded show today. We got a bunch of stuff to go
Oh
over.
yeah, get ready to listen to our mouths
Stupidity.
run.
One of my favorite topics of the day is got to be the girl in love with the 737, which we will get into. And that all kind of stemmed off of the whole consent post that was on Twitter.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of stuff to
We got
cover.
opinions
Yes,
today.
we got opinions today, and it's gonna be a loaded show. I'm looking forward to it. So we were watching Phantom of the Opera. What made you turn that on?
Yeah, I was watching Sabrina, the Teenage Witch with Dave.
Yeah.
Dave was watching it. I know we were watching that, and they were singing Masquerade from Phantom of the Opera. And I was like, oh, I haven't seen Phantom of the Opera in like over 10 years. So I put it on. And Jeff, you've never seen Phantom of the Opera, right?
I've seen bits and pieces of the 1989 version, not the 2004 one that you were.
Okay.
It has Fiona from Shameless.
Yeah, Emmy Rossum.
Yeah.
And which Dave said that apparently people were pissed when that came out because they didn't think she was good looking enough, which I find kind of ridiculous.
Yes. People were complaining that she wasn't as pretty as the character is supposed to be. That people, I remember, because I was shocked.
That
They
pisses
were-
me off so bad.
They
Like,
basically-
how
Pretty
can you
girl.
tear her apart? She's fucking hot. Like, I feel like in The Office with Hillary Swank. Hillary Swank is hot. If you're saying Hillary Swank is not hot, you're saying I'm not hot. You cannot say Emmy Rossum's not hot. Sorry.
That's true.
Yes.
But
She's proven
apparently
her worth.
people thought that. So anyway, you know the theme of like what I've always known as the theme of Phantom of the Opera. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Like that's Phantom of the Opera for me.
Yeah.
Jeff is listening to it as like the world's biggest Pink Floyd fan that I've ever known.
Yes.
And he goes, they stole that from Echoes from Pink Floyd. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but this is the Phantom of the Opera, so.
And I was like, but which version is this? This is the 04 one. So this is an Andrew Lloyd Webber version. But it was a remake of the 1989 Andrew Lloyd Webber Phantom of the Opera. And Echoes from Pink Floyd came out in 1971. So when this all occurred last night, it's like, you know what? I'm going to Google this because I'm really not, I don't know. And there was a huge feud between Andrew Lloyd Webber and Pink Floyd about it. And Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, he said that it wasn't worth taking the time to sue him, basically. There was like, we could sue you, but you're not worth it. So whatever, have echoes and use it in your Phantom of the Opera. We don't care. That's basically was the bottom line. And Nicole had never heard the song before, so I played it for
First
you.
of all, it's a 20-minute song.
It's a 20-minute song by Pink Floyd.
It's ridiculous.
And it's got since it uses that exact like 12/8 time signature, it uses the same chord progressions.
Oh, it was a complete ripoff.
Complete ripoff.
Oh, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my God. Even I was upset. As a fan of Phantom of the Opera, I was upset. I was like, they completely ripped Pink Floyd off bad.
Now it could be you could play devil's advocate and you could say that, you know, anybody could come up with such a easy riff of just dun 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 and then back down again. And maybe it was just like, you know, it was a coincidence.
Yeah, but it's not just the notes like ba 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 ba. It's the
everything.
same progression of it. It's like da 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 da. Like
Yes.
it's so bad. Oh, it was so bad. But
And yep.
the guy who did the '89 version, who was the
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
It was.
Yep, same
Well,
guy.
he didn't do the 2004 one too.
Yeah, he did.
Are you sure? I don't think
Not
so.
100% sure.
I don't-
The music. They
I
used
don't-
the same music, same score.
They used the same score, but I think it was a different director and everything.
No, I
But-
looked it up because when I looked it up to see what the soundtrack was in 04, it said Andrew Lloyd Webber, so I think they just used the same score.
Okay, so he was the maestro of it then. He was the composer. He wasn't the director.
I'm pretty sure he does both.
Well, he didn't direct the 2004 one is what I'm
Okay,
saying.
gotcha.
I know that for a fact.
We could fact check
But,
it, but I'm not sure.
The 89 one, I will say this. Whoever directed that or was in charge of that project had no issue ripping things off because the poster for the 89 Phantom of the Opera has Robert Englund on it. Like because he played the Phantom
Yes.
in the 89 version, and that made me like cringe because I'm a huge Robert Englund fan because I'm a horror fan.
Yeah.
And he's Freddy, like iconically he's Freddy. So the
Forever
poster for Phantom of the Opera has Robert Englund, and it says he was Freddy. Now he's the Phantom of the Opera, and I was like, I cannot believe this.
That might have been
So-
an alternate poster. You know that they do that.
I'm sure. But when you look up on IMDb,
Yeah, it
Phantom
pops
of the
up.
Opera '89, that is the poster for it. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. I've never seen the '89 version, and I kind of don't want to now.
Yeah. Did you find some facts, Dave, for us?
I am looking up to see what our issue is with YouTube currently. So we're having some technical difficulties on the YouTube side for the second week in a row. I don't know what YouTube is doing to us, but I'm trying to sort that.
I'm wondering if it's the driver issue, the NVIDIA driver issue, with just not sending it out. I don't get it.
It's not. I don't believe it's a driver issue. I think YouTube's retaliating against us using a multi-streaming service. So
Oh, yeah.
it's concerning. So I'm trying to figure out, because it says we're live. It says that we have a single viewer currently. But when I go to our page, it doesn't show anything. So I'm very confused what's happening.
Yeah, it's live on Twitch, though. I do see that.
On this
Yes.
week's section of technical difficulties.
Yes.
There's
It's
always
the same.
something.
It is always something.
We did a single test last week that worked, and then since then
Yeah,
it
it
seems
doesn't
like
show us live
they're just
on-
rejecting us.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's time to take off the training wheels and move. You got to pick
Yeah.
a service, either YouTube or Twitch. But I personally think that YouTube's the way to go with it.
I would agree with that.
Sorry, nothing against Twitch. I just don't. I just know the platform, and it's very, very difficult to do what we want to do with it. But yeah, if they're retaliating against that, I can understand why.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
I know it's a terms of service contract breach on my end with Twitch. If I try to do something like that, they'd be like, "Oh no, you don't. Not only did you violate that, but you'll lose your channel."
yeah.
So.
Well, and it's one of those things that I don't believe we're under any form of terms of service currently for either platform.
Yeah.
But
No, we're not. I know that.
I think we might have to go all in on YouTube from here on.
I agree 100% with that.
I knew I smelt it.
What happened? Oh, lovely. Yeah, we've been having an issue with the dogs.
They're sick.
They're sick, and they've been
Shitting everywhere,
shit
basically.
everywhere.
I was sitting here, I'm like, I just showered before I went to bed.
My, yeah. That's right there. The it's been pretty nonstop the last 2 nights with Apollo going nuts down here because he's had diarrhea pretty much. Said we had to let him outside, and he was just running around constantly shitting the whole time. And I know he is because you see his tail goes out and then it goes up and then over, and he's just like hunched down. Oh my god!
Wow.
Yeah, our house is full of shit. Was that Tim Robbins or not Tim Robbins? Maybe that's his name. With I Think You Should Leave on Netflix.
Oh.
He's from Tim and Eric. I forget his last name. I think it's Robbins. Or Robinson. Tim Robinson, maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, that sketch where he's like, this house is full of shit.
Yeah.
Covered in shit.
Oh.
And that for now, so I can finish the podcast.
No problem.
And I'll go on a shit hunt around the house, I guess.
Yes. So that's been a nonstop issue.
So
Yeah.
fun. I think they have like the flu. They haven't eaten anything weird. Benny and Apollo eat different foods than each other, and they're both sick. So I think they have like dog flu.
Oh,
Yes.
Poor puppers.
I know.
It really does suck.
There's nothing they can do.
But we got off tangent with the whole thing. But the bottom line was that, Google it and check it out. I found it very, very interesting that there was a feud between those two over that song.
You know what, though? You'd be surprised, I think, at how many times music is ripped off, like very blatantly ripped off.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I think sometimes people do it on accident. Like they'll subconsciously hear, like they'll be like, oh, I have this in my head. And they'll put it down, not even knowing that it is in their head because they heard it somewhere, you know?
Right.
I think that happens a lot. And
Yeah,
He's saying that too.
we discussed that last night. There was some band that years ago, I don't even remember who it was, but they put a song out and people were accusing them of stealing someone's style. And the singer came out later and he was like, no, I love that band. He's like, I listened to them nonstop on my iPad or iPod at the time.
Yep.
While we were in the studio. And he's like, I guess it carried over. And from what I've heard, that happens to musicians. They're trying to get inspired while writing and all this, and they're listening to the stuff they like. But sometimes it subconsciously regurgitates out into their work.
Yeah. Maybe Andrew Lloyd Webber was just like having a joint, listening to some Pink Floyd, laying back, and it's like, man, this just makes sense.
Well, and then
after hearing Echoes for the first time last night, that's a song I kind of want to have a joint and sit around for 20 minutes listening to. There's like a 10-minute guitar solo in there.
Yep. And then the middle part has a bridge, and it's interesting because there's a part in there that is very, very, very similar to what in Phantom of the Opera is another one of their songs, one of those the preludes to whatever. But we've kind of convinced ourselves that Phantom of the Opera is just basically 2 songs just kind of thrown around the entire time.
Yes.
They only use 2 melodies for the most part.
Well, and in Hollywood, when it's a big budget movie that they predict is going to make, $1 billion, there's been studios on record saying that, we'll just do what we want and we'll take care of it in the court. Yeah. Like if there's a song they want and they can't figure out how to arrange it before the movie comes out, they're going to put it in the movie no matter what.
Yeah, it's got to go.
And then if you try and sue them, they'll settle. They don't care.
Yeah.
So,
which then got us to the point of like the new Cats coming out. And I was like, if you're going to see Cats, take the time to watch the 90s version of it. If you want to see Cats, watch the 90s version of it before you watch this new one that's coming out.
CGI monstrosity.
I'm going to wait for it to come out.
You guys keep saying the new one's
Prime.
going to be just an abomination, and I'm excited. I saw Jennifer Hudson in CGI cat form, and I was like, yeah. I'm on board.
It's so creepy because it went from a Broadway kind of thing, and that's what I liked about the 2004 Phantom of the Opera. It's still very Broadway-ish.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This is going to be taking it completely out of the Broadway spectrum.
But I think they did that because of people like me. Like
they just don't care.
They made it for me. No, but I think they did it because a lot of people in this generation haven't seen or aren't cultured in Broadway musicals.
That's true.
So they're like, okay, how do we take a Broadway musical, like a classic one like Cats, which I've never seen, and make it modern and make it relevant to the people who aren't into Broadway?
Right.
Because the soundtrack alone is great. Like Wicked. Didn't they do something like that with Wicked? They like
think so.
redid it, but did they keep it Broadway? I never saw Wicked either.
Wicked is just a Broadway thing. They've never made a movie. I liked Wicked when I saw it. If they made a movie, I would watch it, but it has not been made a movie. It's one of the most requested musicals, though, and for some reason Hollywood won't do it.
Well, I mean, regardless, Too Long Didn't Read with the Phantom of the Opera is
Jesus,
watch
I know. We're
Beauty
still
and the
talking
Beast.
about this.
Watch Beauty and the Beast.
Too Long Didn't Read,
Listen-
watch Beauty and the Beast.
Listen to Echoes and watch Beauty and the Beast.
That's
Yes.
so true. That is what you should take from that.
Yes, watch Beauty and the Beast, save your time. But with cats, I'm not like a hipster about cats. I don't care. Like, I've seen it a couple times in my entire life, but I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. I'll
just
see the
think
new
the
one.
new
I'll wait
one's-
for it to hit Amazon Prime and I'll watch it. I got back from Charlotte, so I did the Charlotte run. That was a 24-hour blur, and I can try to recap it the best I can. So I was given an opportunity to go up to Charlotte and do the drivers' introductions for their esports, the NASCAR Heat Esports Pro League. And I got there, and they were just like, "Oh, you're going to do drivers' introductions." I was like, "Okay, I guess that's going to be like, starting in row number 2, blah, 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 blah," during a graphic on the screen. And they're like, "No, it's like you're doing an introduction, like drivers' introductions if you go to like an actual race." So it had like a stage and all the lights and it had the smoke and
It looked super fancy.
it was super fancy, and it was NASCAR Productions who does all of their production stuff. So they go on the road and they do the races, they do sports locally and stuff. So it was a really professional team of people in a control room that would blow your mind. It was just like everything was TV cameras and this, and they had directors shouting at each other. And it's great because out there it's like calm, or not kind of calm. And then in there, if you go in the production room, you just hear like, "Fuck, go now, god damn it, missed it, go anyway, do it now," screaming at each other. But they're like tight-knit group of people that work together and highly, highly professional. So I got there and I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm working with the announcers, and they were talking about some things. And then I was like, all right, I'll start writing my own notes down because I don't want to screw this up. And then later on, they're like, "Oh, no, we have cards for you. Here's your cards, and here's all this." Bottom of the line, awesome experience to do that. That was really, really, really cool.
And you've been cutting back on your alcohol intake in solidarity with me, which I appreciate.
Absolutely have been way, way down on my alcohol intake. And when I was there, beer was everywhere. Like, you could just have it whenever you wanted it. And was really, really cool was Chad Knaus, he was the crew chief, or he used to be the crew chief for Jimmy Johnson in NASCAR. Now he's with William Byron. He was there as a guest as well, and he was having a beer, and I was like, I'm going to have a beer too. So he's having a beer, and he's a super nice guy, really nice dude. And so we're all having beers, and I'm like, well, of course that leads to another one or whatever. And then the after party started happening, and we went to a karaoke bar, and I had drinks there. Needless to say, it was the worst hangover of my life the next day. I just woke up and just threw up and then just couldn't stop. And the most embarrassing part was going to the airport in a Lyft and then having them pull over so I could throw up.
Good Lord.
Wow.
I was doing fine. Like I fell asleep out on a chair in this little like circle in front of the hotel. It was like, in the afternoon. I was just napping in a chair like an absolute piece of shit. And they came to pick me up, and then we went around the corner. I was like, oh, this isn't going to be a good ride to the airport. This isn't going to be good at all. But I actually came back to life over coconut water, which I don't know why. I was like at one of those little kiosk things, and I was like, coconut water just sounds good right now. So I had it, and I Googled it, and coconut water is like a huge, like, some people swear by it for hangover relief.
Yeah, it's got a lot of sugar in it, and it's also hydrating, so that makes sense. But
yeah, and it has stuff that's in your blood. So
Stuff that's in your blood.
stuff that's in your blood. It's
Yeah.
got the hemoglobins.
the hemoglobins. Hemogoblins. So that was a lot of fun. It was a good trip. But it made me go, I really don't like the hangover. That it's not worth the amount. It's not worth drinking.
So I've had one night where I had some drinks since we've been back from St. Louis, and that was when we went to Palm Beach, and I had 4 beers, I think. So it wasn't even enough that I was hungover the next day because I drank plenty of water, and I haven't had anything since. But man, I do not miss being hungover at all. Like that feeling when you wake up and you're like, my whole day is fucked.
Yeah.
It is, and we were like drinking so often that we were like, this is just how life is. You just
Jeff's bedside table of ibuprofen and Tums.
Yeah, you have Tums, ibuprofen. You don't shit right at all. Ever. That's like that comedian that was saying, it's like, I didn't know that you just, didn't have diarrhea every day. So
That's true.
But alcohol, it's just such poison. And whenever I was like, it's not even worth it. A lot of times anymore, it's not worth it.
No, and now I feel like as a group, like collectively, we've all gotten to the point where I feel like we're all the healthiest
Yeah.
we've been in a long time. Like
I feel great.
Dubes with not drinking anymore, or at least like almost never, rarely if ever.
Yeah.
And same, and I've been very strictly back on paleo. We had to take Dave clothes shopping the other day because all of his clothes, I was like, I can't stand to look at you in these like trash bags anymore.
Yeah, he's swimming in his clothes, his old clothes.
This Dubes is wearing a new shirt.
Yeah. Got this the other day.
He went and did adult things and got some new attire to fit his new slender bod.
How many pounds are you down now?
He doesn't. I
don't weigh myself.
know.
That's
We
true.
need to weigh you. I want to know.
But so I know every shirt brand does their sizing different.
Right.
But whenever I would go shopping, I would always buy extra large. I just buy extra large. I order extra large. So for this shirt, I grabbed an extra large, and Nicole was like, "No, you're doing that wrong." And I was like, "Well, okay, I'll grab the large." She's like, "I think you need a medium," and I was like, "There is no way, no way, I will ever fit in a medium. This is a medium."
Yeah, Dave fits in a medium shirt now. That's incredible. And that just comes down to our forced diet on Dave, which is he's learned the ways of how we live, which is basically intermittent fasting, where you just eat once a day.
Actually, I was telling them that last night. I found a subreddit called OMAD, which is 1 meal a day, and there are a lot of people who've shown substantial weight loss and like physical changes because they've switched to doing 1 meal a day, which is basically intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
You give your body this amount of time to deal with food, and then the rest is basically a fast. So, which is basically what you two always do now.
Yeah.
But I've never, and me and Dave have been friends 8 years. You've known Dave a long time. I've never seen Dave this size.
You would eat probably how many times a day? 3 times? You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I've never been a breakfast person.
QT. I mean, like at the Quick Trips.
Well, no, yeah, that's true. So more recently, when we lived in St. Louis, like the last few years, I would stop and get like something for breakfast. But for the most part, I usually wasn't a breakfast person. I looked forward more to lunch.
I look forward to coffee.
So I would have lunch and dinner. And it was more of I started eating breakfast just because I was trying to get more energy. But also, that was because I wasn't sleeping a lot and I would drink on random weekdays. So like trying to get a, less alcohol, more sleep, it makes it to where, like you're not just shoving calories in your mouth. So you have some sort of energy in the morning.
Yeah. And it was just like a flip switched in my head when we were in Palm Beach. I was like, I don't want this. I don't want beer anymore. I don't want my vape. I didn't want anything outside of like any normal thing. So I even like soda kind of starting to get to the point where I'm like trying to have more seltzer waters now, and that makes me crabby if I don't have Coca-Cola.
I think Dave is pretty normal lately. Like we're all giving up something. Like Dave has given up booze, which has been like his. I think, like, I'm not saying we haven't all relied on alcohol at points in our life, but I don't think any of us have ever relied on it as heavily as Dave has at points in his life. So Dave giving that up is very big, and you've given up soda and vaping.
Yeah.
And I've given up beer and fucking
everything
and
and
now.
Food.
Yeah. Well, I have those paleo protein, which are
Right.
like 23 grams of protein per shake and like 1 gram of sugar.
Well, you were doing what I call crash dieting. You don't think it, but I mean, when you go from having a normal amount of calories, let's just say around number of 9 to 1,000 calories a day, which we were probably having more than that, or you probably were having more than that.
well over.
Well, then you drop down to just 400 or 350, and your body's like, hey, dude.
Yeah, but I was doing that as like a fast to try and
Right.
get rid of, I don't know.
I call it crash dieting. When you just go cold turkey, just down the gauntlet we go.
Well, that's because I have like I have a little bit of an issue with food. Like my weight doesn't stay the same very long.
Right.
Because I love food and I love to eat and I love to drink beer. So
I do too. It's just I don't know what happened. It just kind of switched in my brain when we were in Palm Beach that I was like, I don't want this stuff anymore.
So with alcohol, it's one of those things I've noticed personally is that hangovers and all that stuff, it doesn't seem so bad when I'm not gonna say drink daily or regularly, but like when there isn't a large break between it, like you're just kind of used to it. So like when you're hungover, you're like, oh, I don't like this, I don't feel good. But then when you go in an extended period and you get that first hangover again, it is so bad that you almost start reteaching yourself like, I don't like this. It's like shock therapy. You're like,
Dude,
I don't want to
that's
do
what it
this
is.
again. It's not
Yes.
worth it.
And I even told her, I was like, when I went out that night, I had beers, just beer. I didn't have any hard alcohol shots, nothing like that. I had water in between some beers, ate food. It was like a normal amount of alcohol I would intake on a night out. And it felt like I just downed an entire fifth of vodka and was just spinning to my bed and then woke up and just threw it all up. Like it was just so catastrophic that I was like, when we go to, we were discussing about that when we go to Colorado Springs, we're just going to have a brewery day and split a beer and try different beers. And
I told him I'll
not get
do
drunk.
beer in Colorado as long as it is followed or as long as it is preceded by a hike. I was like, we
Yeah.
got to do a hike first and then we can go to breweries and I'll split some beers with you.
Yeah. So
But my point was, I'm really proud of us, all being at really healthy points in our lives.
yeah.
And we have 2.5 months before we move back home. We're going to show up looking real good.
Well, that's where the pressure is because we can't show up looking worse than we left. So we got to look good coming back because we got to be like, oh, yeah, it's that beach life. That's what Florida does to you.
Yeah.
Totally wasn't a mistake.
No, we totally haven't been in rehab for 2 years.
Say what you will. I'll miss Florida. I liked it.
Oh, I'm super happy we moved here, and I've loved our time in Florida. I really have. I was thinking about that, about just traveling. I was like, man, I bet we'll travel and come back. We've made friends here, especially in Tampa. I was looking forward to moving to Tampa because we do have friends there.
Yeah.
So to be able to come back and visit, I will be really happy.
Yeah, and you have a newfound respect for living here because we did it, and we said that from day one when we moved down here. We were like, if we don't have to stay there forever, and I think so many people have that mindset. They're like, if you move out of state, well then you got to stay there forever, and now you live there. It's like you can move
that's my
anywhere you want.
parents.
Yeah,
it's kind of, I laugh about it. I think it's funny. My mom's worst nightmare was me moving away, meeting a girl. And she's like, you're going to meet a girl, you're going to get married. Girls need to live next to their moms. So if you meet a girl in Florida, you're never going to come home. You're going to stay there till you die. And I was like, you don't know that?
First of all, I'm a girl.
yeah.
And I moved very far away from my mom. And I love my mom. I mean, I still call her all the time, but
Yeah.
that's not every girl.
No, and
Oh.
it's a misconception of people that are just kind of set in their ways. Because we're just travelers, we can live anywhere.
Yeah. That's definitely, I think that's something that brings you and me really close together, though, and which I could go on a tangent about this, but I won't. But I think that's very important in relationships that you have similar backgrounds of growing up. For some reason, the people that I've dated that have grown up completely different from me, either they're an only child or they're oh my God, mama's boys, or they're, whatever. it just can't, like, I find myself being like, you just don't understand life. Where you traveled a lot growing up. You guys grew up dirt floor poor. Like, we relate on a lot of shit easily because we just were raised very similarly. Broken homes, if you want to call it that. Like, like our parents were divorced when we were, you know, close to the same age. So all that stuff really, I think, helps in a relationship.
Yeah, no, it does for sure.
And then we kidnapped Doobie and took him away from his family.
No, I remember specifically having that conversation. You were like, no, you're not coming. And he's like, well, you don't get a choice. I'm coming along.
No, I decided I was gonna move with you guys, and Nicole came to me and was like, I don't think you should. And then I was like, no takes backsies.
Well, because I've been a little more open, and like I've opened up a lot about myself in the last couple years since we've been here, but I've felt very strongly that I wanted to get away from, I felt like I had fallen into a role in St. Louis. Like, I'm just this person. This is how everybody sees me, and this is who I am now. And I was really fighting against that. It made me not want to be around my friends, made me not want to be around my family, because I didn't feel like I could be authentic and open about myself. So I wanted to get away. And I was like, well, if Dave comes, here's Dave, like a part of the past, and he's going to be like, Nicole, what are you doing with your life? But you didn't. And that was a fear of mine with you coming down here, was you're my best friend, and you judging me or being a dick to me about like me wanting to blossom into the person I want to be. And you weren't. You were supportive. And now I'm super happy. I say that all the time now. I'm like, I'm really sorry I told you I didn't want you to move.
It's okay.
No means no, originally.
I would have probably told me no also.
You need to have consent when you move with a friend
That's so
to a
true.
different state.
Well, she did for a moment. She was like, oh, okay. Then later, I guess after you thought about it, you're like, no, don't.
I said, oh,
That's not
okay,
consent.
because I legitimately didn't think he would come.
Yeah.
I thought Dave would back out for sure.
I did
was like,
too.
there's no fucking way Dave is moving to Florida. And then like a month beforehand,
Bags
he's
are
like,
packed.
he's packing shit and getting rid of stuff, and like told his family. After you told your family, I was like, oh no, like he's actually moving.
But I remember that we went out to dinner, and you were like having doubts about that, and I was like, you know what? I know there's many conversations we've had where you were like, you really were looking forward to him, and then you were kind of back and forth about him moving down. And I was like, well, we're not gonna know anybody down there. One, you got to have a support system, and we all three kind of just made it work.
Yep.
Moved down there and did it for 2 years, and we will be moving back very soon. It's coming real fast.
Yes.
Yeah, like 3 months almost to the day.
Yeah,
It's gonna be quick, y'all.
gonna be quick.
All right. Do you want to talk about this consent?
Yes.
Oh, this is hilarious.
Conversation. I feel like this is gonna be so good. I'm excited.
There was a tweet that went out by this guy. I found it because of Chris D'Elia. He responded about it in a comedian way, of course. But there's a guy. His name's Preston Mitchum. I don't know who he is.
I know. Probably
I'm gonna click on it.
Calling him out on the.
No, he's a policy director, writer, board co-chair, Safe Space. So there you go. This is part of the Me Too movement.
Safe
stuff.
spacer.
Yes. So
Safe spacer. Dave's like, I know of
he's
these.
I know what the safe spacers are. How do you not know? He says, let's be clear. The fact that many men aren't checking in with their sexual partners during intercourse to ensure consent is continuous means they are selfish, likely violated consent, and bad at sex. Just thought you should know. You know, if you're going to drop a nugget like that on Twitter, you can't just be like, just thought you should know that you're bad at sex because you don't check in with your partner every few seconds asking them if you still have consent during those, like somebody said, 40 seconds. If you're going to drop something like that on Twitter, you got to expect backlash.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, people that post that kind of stuff, though, like that ending it with, I thought you should know, they feel like they are they have an enlightened form of knowledge. And that other people don't know this.
So this is my take on this, and this is what I told Jeff, where I understand where that came from, because I've heard that from other people.
Right.
Obviously, consent is a big deal. Obviously.
Yeah.
I think we know that at this point and I understand why people are shoving consent down people's throat is because it's not given enough.
I've known that since I was in high school watching those movies on it.
The thing is, I think that a lot of people who choose to violate other people, it's not because of them it's not because they don't know what consent is. It's because they don't care.
Right.
So first of all, when you're supposed to check in with people's consent, I think for me, like I told Jeff, obviously do not ask.
You don't, yeah.
Don't ask me into intimate anything. Hey, are you okay? Hey, did you change your mind? Because I might then. But you do always reserve the right to, it's your responsibility to speak up and tell your partner if you're uncomfortable with something, if you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, they're called safe rooms.
I think that it's both people involved or all people involved, however many people you got in there, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's everybody's responsibility involved to check in beforehand, make sure everybody is consenting and comfortable. Not continuously ask them throughout the act, but trust. This is why you shouldn't sleep with people you don't trust or
Yes.
that are stupid. They should speak up if they change their mind, and you should respect that. If I say, yeah, you can do this, we can try this thing, and then halfway through I'm like, I don't like this, I don't want this, my responsibility is to tell you,
Right.
I don't want to do this, and your responsibility to me is to go,
I don't want to do this.
okay, I will stop doing this. That is how it should be. Not checking in every 45 seconds to make sure that...
That sounds like having sex with a person that's like just so insecure the entire time. Just like, oh, are you okay? Oh, I'll move the pillow here. Are you okay?
If you plan on doing
You're not
that,
having sex with me at all. Get off of here.
just blow sand up my vagina, because that's as dry as I will ever be in my life.
Oh my God.
Like, don't. Just...
Wow.
But
Okay.
I think that this tweet is probably more gauged towards people that are out there in the Tinder world looking for hookups and that are dating, essentially, rather than long-term couples.
Well, okay, and this, not even a sexual act, but I've been on dates before, and I remember talking about this with Dave at least, but I remember somebody on a first date being like, I would really like consent to kiss you. And I was like,
I remember you telling me
I was
that.
just like, no.
That's like a thing back in the day. All the cool guys would be like, you never asked to kiss her. You just do it.
Yeah, they're all being dragged on Twitter now and on CNN. So you might want to. Okay, so I've been on dates before and trying to just kind of, like with the dating world, I don't even mean necessarily kissing or sex and all that stuff, but it applies to it.
To go to TGI Fridays, you need consent.
Well, yes. But it's more, I think some people don't know how to read people or how to maybe actually gauge a situation.
Yes.
Because you should be able to pick up on if someone's comfortable around you or if they're having fun. And if it doesn't look like they're having a great time, you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to kiss them. And it's like, if they look like they've been wanting to get out of there for the last 20 minutes, they don't want to kiss you.
No.
Well,
Why
and
would you even try?
The other thing is, if you feel the need to ask somebody, first of all, especially if it's involving a sexual act, right? You want to feel sexy. You want things to be, you have to be in the mood to
Organic
get
and
there.
natural.
So if you're going to straight up ask for consent, you got to find a better way to do it than, would you sign this paper before we make out to make sure that, just be like,
Check in on the Excel
Wait.
spreadsheet.
say, I would like to kiss you. Don't kiss them. Just let them know. Or
Yeah.
it's not that hard. There's something else I would like to bring up along the lines of this when you
Right.
guys finish your pieces.
Oh, I
so
mean,
should I not carry around a 7-page NDA and consent form for them to fill out?
Well, you don't need anybody anyway, so you can carry around whatever you want. It's not going to matter. You can sign it yourself.
Well, it's pre-filled out.
Do you ask yourself for consent?
That is the true question. I mean, if you really think about it.
Are you
have to-
violating yourself, Dave?
Your subconscious and your conscious mind.
So he got so silent.
He's like,
He's like, am I? I don't know.
I don't know how to respond.
I wouldn't either. But what were you gonna say? You're
So, yeah. So along with this, like what is sexy and what is not, there have been a lot of women Noticeably more women than men, I'm going to say. I'm sure there are men who get this too, and I don't mean to exclude them or diminish that. But a lot of women lately complaining about like men hitting on them at a place of work, and they're like, what do I do to stop this? Guys are always hitting on me because I work at a comic book store and I do this or whatever. And to me, first of all, I've worked in, like, I was a bartender.
Yeah.
You're going to get hit on behind a bar.
Yeah, of course.
Or in any line of job where you're, around the opposite sex and people who find you attractive, whatever. Now, everybody was ganging up. As far as I saw, it was like a very heavy percentage of people like, wear a wedding ring or do this. It was like this whole like manipulate yourself to make yourself seem less appealing.
Yeah.
To me, I don't know, like, if I hit on anybody, male or female, if they're not interested in me, I fully expect them. This is another thing. What is wrong with people just speaking up and saying, I'm not interested. I don't want, fine.
No, you internalize and then you go to your phone and you write a whole tweet about it.
It's ridiculous to me. I think people should speak up if they're not attracted to people and other people respect it. But the problem is we've manipulated the whole system to be, we have to play these games with people,
Oh, God, yeah.
People need, if you want to make sure you have consent from people of any form, you need to be more vocal. People need to start speaking up instead of being like, well, I was wearing a wedding ring that should have warded you off. Like, no.
That's another thing that was something with our relationship was we, we're not effectively communicating. We talked a lot, but we weren't effectively communicating. And now ever since we like went through the therapy thing and we were talking about that stuff, you learn how to actually communicate, and it's been wonderful. It's like we don't internalize anything, and there's nothing held in a closet somewhere, and you're just like, hey, let's bring all the skeletons out. Let's have a party.
Well, and in general, people don't know how to communicate.
No.
Like, people
Especially
are
now.
really bad at it. And that is across the board. No matter what it is, people are generally bad at communicating for some reason.
If you're on Tinder to find your long-lost love, then you probably don't know much about any of that.
Well, I think even the three of us, since we first moved in together, 5 years ago, have gotten better at the way we communicate with each other. And we're people that we know, we're friends. Like, we know each other very well.
Yeah.
But, and Dave has brought this up before, like, about me. Like, I'm a very straightforward person. When I do share my feelings, they tend to come across as very blunt.
Yeah.
But I also have had the trouble of internalizing things. I either say things and say them very directly and like stab you with them, or I bury them deep. I think we've all gotten better at being less passive aggressive.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes.
When we first moved in, we were probably all just absolutely passive aggressive to each other.
Thinking back the way like the dynamic was with me and you, we were very passive aggressive.
Oh, fuck yeah.
We wouldn't say anything to each other. We would just
especially when we lived with each other in that house and
because we didn't know how to be roommates, so we were figuring it out. And I remember I didn't want dishes in the sink, and you would leave dishes in the sink, and I was like do the dishes and like.
And now you two have buddied up, and I'm the mom of the house, and I don't like dishes in the sink, but I just pout about it and watch them.
The thing is, like, I've always been a person that if you clean up the house before you have company over, whatever, but it's okay for a house to be lived in, like to have a couple dishes in the sink, to not have to have Windex on a coffee table at all times. Like, I just don't have a need for that.
Well, see, and the way I was my mom clinically had OCD. Mm-hmm. And there were some crazy ass things that she made us do growing up. But my dad was military. So to me, clutter isn't just like, it's just people live here. Clutter means if you're not taking care of the big stuff that's laying around, you're also not taking care of all the really gross stuff that's happening in the house, like the sideboards and behind the toilets and like all the really like deep that people are like, this is deep cleaning. Yeah. So I always, especially in a house the size that we live in now, it's very daunting to me. Like, it's just, I feel like I can never keep it clean. And you're always like, the house looks great. And I'm like, it's disgusting. We live in film. It's so bad. But
it's a lot of clutter, especially like since we've made this studio in here. It's just there's so much stuff here.
Well, no, I think a lot of people in like couples or relationships where you live together, you learn that you have to compromise with the other person.
Yeah.
Like with Jeff, I compromise that I like laundry inside of the basket when it's dirty and he likes it all over the place.
Yep.
I compromise on that. But when you have roommates, it's different. It's not like I compromise with you because we sleep together. It's like I
Right.
compromise with you because this is also your living space, and you have to learn to respect somebody just for who they are and their personal space and like living area, which has been a new thing.
Yeah. Well, one thing I can say that I'm very happy with is all of us, the house gets cluttered, but we don't, it's not filth. It's not
Yeah.
trash. We don't leave just food bowls laying around. Like there were guys I was friends with, like a whole group of them rented a house and they like offered me a roommate spot. And I still lived at home. It was like literally 3 miles from my parents' house. And I was like, I'm not going to pay $200 a month just to live 3 miles away.
In this hellhole.
And then when I went there, like it was disgusting. Like just bowls that you could tell they ate something out of, just like stacked up on the coffee table from like who knows how many days. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, put that in a sink. Like I don't mind clutter, but when it turns into that,
Yeah.
oh no, I cannot deal with that.
And I think that's, for me, I know cleanliness has always been a very, very important thing in a house. I have loosened the reins on that a bit over the years because I was driving myself crazy. Like I was
Yeah.
just miserable. I was crying all the time. I was like, I hate you both. Neither of you want to help around the house. You expect me to be your maid and blah, blah, blah. And you were just like, no, we don't. We just don't care that the house is not sparkling clean all the time like you do.
Right.
And I was like, all right. So it's not that you want me to like be the maid. It's just that
No.
your standards of what's acceptable cleanliness is different from mine.
Yes.
And
We've made it work
Yeah.
yeah.
for the most part. But going back to the consent thing.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So if you are in love with an inanimate object,
Oh, Jesus.
do you still need consent from that object before you do anything, like kiss it or something? And the reason why I say this is because there is an article of a girl that's been in a 5-year relationship with a Boeing 737-800. And I'll bring those notes up.
Jeff's wearing
Wow.
a Boeing hat right now.
If you would like, yeah.
Yes. And by girl,
Not an ad.
and by girl we mean boy, and by boy we mean Jeff Faviano.
Oh.
Oh, so while I'm bringing this up, you said there was a guy with a video
So-
game
Sometimes I
character.
do feel like I'm in a relationship with a 737.
All right, so
All right.
there's been multiple stories of there was that TV show, I don't remember what it was called, because there was that girl
Yes.
my strange addiction.
yeah,
Yeah.
where they had some people like this because there was that woman that was in love with a roller coaster.
I've seen that one.
But
The grease and the gears, that was like her.
10 years, I remember seeing this 10 years ago, and I found the article again. It was even covered by CNN. There was a man in Japan who married a video game character.
Which video game character?
I don't know the name
Is
of the
she hot,
character.
Yeah, but is she hot though?
Well, I mean, if you're into anime girls. But it was a DS game called Love Plus. And
I think I've seen.
it's a dating sim.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've read, the article doesn't cover much, but my favorite thing is the quote where he says it's better than a human girlfriend. And he says she doesn't get angry if I'm late replying to her. Well, she gets angry, but she forgives me quickly.
She doesn't have a choice.
Yes.
She's been programmed to say
that
5
way.
things. Well, this is Michelle, I believe you say Kolpke, from Berlin, Germany. It's probably way harsher than that, actually. She's 30 years old. She's been in a relationship with a Boeing 737-800, which she calls darling, for 5 years. Yep, she can't get enough of the huge machine.
Hey.
She says the 737-800. Now, there's some armchair pilots that like to say like, "Oh, that's sexy. That 737 sexy." Could probably relate. The 737-800 is very attractive and sexy to me. He's the most beautifully built, and he's a very attractive and elegant aircraft.
So it's all about looks then.
All about looks.
Yep.
Shallow bitch.
Here we go. A relationship with a plane is not easy and at times difficult. I can only get close to him when I fly with him. which doesn't make sense to me. So she's in love with just the airframe type, not a particular airplane.
That's what I was curious about, because if she's in love with a certain plane, then she would want only that plane. But if she goes to the airport and there's like 20 of them, is that like heaven to her? She's like, they're everywhere.
I think that in a case like this where somebody is in love with an inanimate object, I don't think they're in love. I think that they're wired to be sexually engaged with an inanimate object.
Yeah.
I think she has like something in her brain that clicks. It's like when people see feet and they want to fuck them. I don't know. But you're wired that way. I think she's wired to be turned on by airplanes, whatever the fuck happened to her in her past. I don't know. But I don't think you cannot be in love with an inanimate object, especially when it's not even the same inanimate object.
Yeah. She wants to marry her sweetheart and live with him in a hangar. It's just a special kind of love. It doesn't hurt anybody. She found a different way to indulge her affections. So she has a big model of him made of fiberglass, as well as real components from him, so I can act out my love to some degree.
Ew.
And this came to the whole thing of, well, she sleeps at night with a huge fiberglass model, airplane model.
It's a 5 foot long model, correct?
Yes, it's big.
Yeah, and my argument was, okay, so if she's in love with the plane, which it sounds like she's more in love with the look of the plane than a actual plane, but I was arguing, isn't that cheating? Because if she's in love with the plane, that's a scale model. That's not the plane. That's something else.
That's why I think she's in love with just the airframe.
Yeah,
of the seventh. It's like an infatuation of like, it's like, I like girls, so okay, every girl.
Oh,
I'm in love with every. I am married to every girl on the planet. That's kind of like what this is. But she says it's like a normal relationship. They have relaxing evenings together, and when they go to bed, they can cuddle and fall asleep together. She says it was love at first flight.
Ew.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Ugh.
You know, if that's, she goes, I got so excited boarding the plane, I realized I'm in love with the 737-800. I think many, 14 to 16-year-old boys could say the same thing, that fall in love with aviation. They're like, I love this airplane.
Except for usually with them, they're like, I mean, it's like that with cars and a lot of other stuff. You enjoy it. You really appreciate the object, but you're not like, yeah, I want to marry that. I want to sleep with a scale replica of it. Like, no one's doing that. No one who's like, man, I love Mustangs. I'm gonna go buy an RC Mustang car so I can cuddle up at night with it. Like, no one's doing that.
We don't know.
Well,
I feel like, do you remember when you were a kid and you would get something new and like really cool, and you would like I remember I got these really cool shoes that I wanted forever. I was like 5, and they lit up and everything when you ran. And never mind. I have a story with those. But,
no, you're fine.
But I would sleep with them because I was like, these are so cool and awesome, and I'm so excited to have them. And so I like kept them on my bed. Yeah. It's almost like people who are in love with inanimate objects are stunted at like a childhood state.
And it sticks with them.
Yeah.
Because I do remember like the number one thing in my childhood that I got was that remote control fire truck that I'd asking for forever. And then when I got it, I remember when I would go to bed at night, I would park it to where I could see it. And I'd be asleep and I'd be like, okay, there it is right there. It's not going anywhere. In the morning, it's like, I get that. When you're at a young age like that, you'd be like, yeah, you probably love it. Like, you don't know what sex is. So you're just like, I'm not doing anything weird with it. I just love it. And I think that just doesn't leave their brains.
Yep.
Yeah, that would make sense because, that is something that a lot of kids do. And our brains are hardwired the way they are. That's what makes us who we are. So some people, some wires cross different paths and they come out as that kind of way.
This is something I really want to research. But do you guys remember that talk show, like Dr. Drew, whatever it was?
Love
Line, yeah.
I used to listen every night.
Yes, so did I. I loved Love
points.
Line. And I remember he said this so many times on the show because there would be people to call in and ask about problems. And he said, 10 times out of 10, every time he's ever seen it, females who are adults who have higher pitched voices or like have like a baby voice, their voices are usually similar to the age at which they were abused.
Yeah.
If a female's voice is stuck in a childlike state, it's because at whatever age that's around, or whatever voice age that was around the age when they, went through a traumatic whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, my voice is deep as hell. Maybe I'm never going to be traumatized.
To finish this whole story off, if you wanted to know her favorite part of him
Oh, yes, please.
is the wings.
Of course.
Yeah.
I get immediately sweaty palms.
Who doesn't love wings?
So she gets sweaty palms and she gets excited when she touches his wings, which is like his wing things. So she's getting that emotion.
After 5 years, she's still feeling like that?
That's a pretty damn good relationship.
I like penis, but after a couple weeks, I'm like, yeah, this is, it's the same penis.
But the inanimate objects,
Strange.
I think that's probably the bottom line. I think that, we can all relate to it when we're young and then we move on from it. They don't move on from it.
You know what, though? Like she said, it's not hurting anybody. It's
No.
weird. People say that about me, though. A lot of shit that I'm into. I mean, at least you're not hurting anybody, but you're weird.
Yes.
So that's fine. Love a plane.
Yep. Well, yeah. I mean, even in adulthood, we all have things that we like, but I don't know about that. She can do her thing. But I want to go ahead and move on to gaming news.
Go ahead.
Yes. You guys excited for this?
Wikipedia.
There you go.
Gaming
Yes.
news.
Davipedia.
Gaming news with?
Davipedia.
There we
Okay,
go.
thank you. All right, well. So some of the big news this week was Shroud, who is a streamer, ex-MLG gamer. He's one of the biggest content creators on Twitch. As of last month, had 26,000 subs, peaked at around 90,000. He would pull in views of over 100,000 a stream. Has left Twitch and moved over to Mixer.
Yikes.
Yep. So that's
He's the one who talks like really low.
yeah, he talks low. He's like compared to like with Ninja and Dr. Disrespect, I find him less entertaining.
Yeah.
But for the games, the man is raw talent. Like
He's good at it.
he's insane. Like he plays a lot of battle royale games. That's kind of where his niche is. And he was a professional not Call of Duty CS:GO player when he was an MLG player. I think he played on Cloud9 was the team.
Yeah.
But so the dude is just pure talent. So like he's not like doing crazy stuff. He's just like playing and watching. But he'll jump in a battle royale game, which most people will get a handful of kills. He'll get 30. He'll wipe out a third to half of the field himself. It's insane. So he moved over to Mixer. So there's going to be more Mixer shakeup. A lot of people are wondering who else behind the scenes is Mixer making deals with, because they're going for it. They're putting their feelers out and trying to pull up anyone big they can.
If Doc leaves, that's a big thing for Twitch to lose. That it would be like, okay, maybe the ship is going down.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to. He said he would not do it.
I mean, he also has uninstalled Fortnite numerous times on
Yeah,
stream
that's
and
true.
said he'll never play it again.
That's true.
And then he's back the next week with Fortnite. But no, yeah, if Dr. Disrespect jumps ship over to Mixer, that's when I'm going to start being worried about Twitch, because they've lost 2 of probably the top 5 streamers on their platform. So
That's true.
but also moving on, we had the wonderful opportunity to pay a monthly subscription on Fallout 76. This is so good. I mean, that game is just amazing. And
16 times the detail.
16 times the detail. So with that, Fallout 76 came out, and it was a disaster. Everything they claimed about the game, it just wasn't right. People said the graphics were outdated. It is.
It's an absolute abomination of a video game. When you see, like, it looks like you're playing an early access game that is a AAA title. It's a AAA title, but it feels like, I'm like, how did they take a game like this and put it on a console? And I see so many games that do that, and I'm like, this isn't ready for console.
It felt very last gen. It felt like it belonged on the previous generation of consoles. And a lot of people were hating on, they're like, well, they're using the same engine as the previous ones. That's why it looks so bad.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they can update engines. They can update graphics. the engine is not what's affecting the graphics.
No.
I mean, the graphical pipeline could have some limitations, but either way, it's just them being, I don't want to say lazy. No developer is lazy, but I think it was poor planning, poor execution on that.
Graphics aside, I think Nicole can chime in because she played Fallout 4 more than any of us.
Yes.
And what made you not even want to go back to 70s or go to 76, even give it a shot?
Because I just quit on 4. I don't even know what 76 is about or what's happening with it.
But what did you quit on 4 for?
I don't remember. It's been so long.
Just repetitive grindiness? Like,
I'm trying to remember why I quit playing it because I was hard into it for a long time.
yeah.
And then I think I just got to the point where I was like, I don't know.
There you go.
Okay.
I don't know because I think about it like that repetitive, grindy feeling. A lot of games I play have that. Borderlands has that.
Yeah.
You're doing the same. You just
Yep.
it's the same thing. It's just I like the story better. Maybe I got lost in the story of Fallout. So there was some problem with the game though. I remember it being glitchy or something was happening, and I got pissed.
I mean, it was a shit show.
It
and
was
then-
glitchy, and that's the thing is when 76 came out, it was insanely glitchy. And also it had its online aspect that you would just run into other people. It was always online.
Right.
You couldn't control who was in your world. So circling back to this wonderful subscription they're offering. It's $100 a year or $13 a month. $13 a month for a single game
That
is what they are
insane.
asking.
Well, I mean, there's got to be some more to it.
Well, here, let me pull up what they are offering. The big one is for the first time, you get private servers.
Oh, I remember hearing about the private server thing is that you can have up to 6 or 7 friends with you.
Here we go. All right, so I actually got it up.
Okay.
So you get a
That's what she
private
said.
server for up to 7 friends. You get extra storage space. You get bonus in-game coins that'll allow you, you get 16,000 in-game currency, which is used for microtransactions.
Ugh.
You get
You're paying for money back.
You get a fast travel point you can put anywhere, and an unlimited storage. So all this kind of sounds okay. A few things kind of irked people with this. One is that they're offering the microtransaction nonsense that no one wanted, so they're like,
Right.
whatever, get that out of here. The other was unlimited storage. That angered a lot of people, a lot of the diehard players, because when the game came out, storage was limited, and that was the number one request from people was we need more storage. The game's too difficult because of the storage limitations.
Right.
And they came out and said they couldn't increase it because of technical limitations.
Oh, that is such a shitty move.
So they said it wasn't possible, but now it's behind a paywall.
Yeah.
And then with the private servers, everyone wanted to be able to just do a private session with them and their friends. Okay, great. They're offering it now behind a paywall,
Yeah.
except they have failed on both the private server and unlimited storage. It's been a disaster. People who signed up day one found out that these private servers are not private. They are private among you and your friends list. Meaning if you're a content creator, just someone
Yeah.
in general who accepts loads of friend invites. Say you have because I know people who have hundreds of friends on like Xbox Live.
Yeah.
There is no way to stop anyone on your friends list from just joining. They can literally just hop in your world whenever they want.
if they have the subscription.
No, if
Oh,
you have
wow.
the subscription.
That's what I said before. I said that price point makes sense if you can split it up between a bunch of friends. If you have the subscription and they can jump in to play with you, it makes sense for it to be $100 a year because everybody could pitch in together, right?
I mean, technically.
Technically, okay, so here's the other thing, though. So they're not truly private. They're also not dedicated.
Yes. Oh.
It is not a persistent living server.
It's
So
peer-to-peer?
I pay $100 a year. Yeah, it's peer-to-peer. I pay $100 a year. I'm like, hey, guys, join my server. Blah, blah, blah. You come in. We're playing. I then leave for the day. You guys want to keep doing stuff? You can't. If I'm not online, you can't be there. It is peer-to-peer only, not dedicated. So that's where a lot of other people are mad because they're like, so many games, including Minecraft, which it's way less. It's like $8, $10 a month for a private server on Minecraft, like through Microsoft. And that server is live 24/7. Doesn't matter. Your friends can play on it when you're not around. With Fallout, it's peer-to-peer. They have to connect when you're on. So a lot of people are mad about that.
Sounds like a mess.
The other thing that is just, the cherry on the top, the unlimited storage, there's massive reports that it is just eating people's items. People are dumping items in, and their items just disappear. So the unlimited
Yikes.
storage isn't even working. So it's been a disaster for them. And
Bethesda. I hope they can bounce back from that.
And
this is not good.
no, it's not. And a lot of people are speculating that it's at its price point because the game is probably losing internal funding.
Right.
And that if they don't find a way to monetize, the teams are going to be let go and they're going to have to move on to the next project. So this is a Hail Mary to get money in to continue to develop for the game, but it's failing horribly because just
not only is it failing horribly, but it's smearing their name in the process. They should have just given up and started over and done something else rather than be like, oh, we're circling the drain. Let's just go ahead and
flush it.
That's
what they
did.
well, and that's where a lot of people were giving them props. They were like, well, they didn't abandon the game. They should have abandoned it.
Yeah.
They should have came out and been like, we hear you guys. We're going to start the next one and do it right.
Yeah.
That's what they should have done, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man.
When I see it on a console, I see what it has become. I go, how? How is this? Fallout has such good marketing behind it. That's the problem.
It does, and it's got a cult following at this point where
God,
you're
yeah.
going to have people who will, but
we have the Fallout guys in our room.
when you have a cult following and you play them like that, like, oh, we know we have diehard fans, so let's just see how much money we can take them for.
Yeah,
Like, that's what they did, and that's terrible to me. And Nintendo is guilty of the same thing all the fucking time, and that's why I quit with Nintendo shit.
They refer to within the industry now. They're using gambling terms, but they refer to them as whales. They're the 1% of your diehards that will spend the money, and basically everyone's accusing Bethesda of going whale hunting. They're like, we just need a certain percentage who are going to spend this money, and we'll be able to sustain. But it's not good.
No.
So the other thing. Oh, this is great. Most of the gaming news, I'll try and get through quickly from here on out, is just disaster stories. There's something in the water, stuff is not going good for companies. But Ghost Recon Breaking Point by Ubisoft bombed so bad that Ubisoft's year financially is wrecked, and they have delayed almost every game they have announced. For about a year.
So it has a ripple effect.
Oh yeah,
from this failure.
The CEO, or it was one of the higher ups, I think it was the CEO, came out and was like, we realized that there wasn't enough to make this game different, that we pushed it out too quickly before the last one, which is amazing because usually the higher ups, they don't acknowledge the failures. But he said because of that, they are delaying almost every one of their next game for the end or the second half of 2020 into 2021. So games that were supposed to be coming out at the beginning of the year are all being pushed to the second half. A lot of people think it's for the next set of consoles. They're going to just play into that. And, you release a shooter every year. If it's not different enough, no one's going to buy it. And that's what happened with Ghost Recon. It's so bad that the company is hurting.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Just give it up.
Another massive failure was Mario Kart Tour.
Oh, God.
It was downloaded 90 million times in the first week. 90 million people downloaded it, including me.
Yeah.
Most people deleted it almost immediately. It generated
Did you delete yours?
Oh, yeah. I never even played it.
Jesus.
Because, no, it was so heavily monetized, I didn't want to touch it. And it generated under $11 million in that time frame, which it sounds like a lot of money, but in the industry, that's a massive failure. So, yeah, Mario Kart is bombing. That bombed. This isn't so much a failure, but Google Stadia, the new streaming service is coming out. Mm-hmm. If you haven't ordered it, you're not getting one. Sold out. The Founders Edition, you're not going to be able to get it. So when the service launches, you're not playing. So you're going to...
Whoa. Line?
Yeah,
what
what
is
the
this?
hell?
Google Stadia?
Google Stadia is Google's new cloud gaming service. So it's going to launch with like 31 AAA titles, including Destiny 2.
Okay.
And all you need is a controller and a approved device. So they're selling a package deal, which is the Founders Edition, which comes with a controller and a Chromecast Ultra.
Oh, okay.
And then with this, you can then play like Destiny 2 and like all these other AAA games on your TV, no hardware. It just streams it.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh, I have heard about that style of...
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So Google's getting into that. Their starter pack is sold out, and they don't know when they're going to be able to get them back in stock. So a lot of people that were excited for it, unless you own a Google-approved device already and you don't plan on playing with a controller, you're just not going to be able to play till they come back in stock.
I mean, that's a win for
Yeah.
Google.
Oh, no, that is a win. It's a loss for people that held off and they were like, well, I want to check it out and see how it is before I buy.
Yeah.
Well, now if you decide you want it, there's going to be scarcity.
Okay.
And it's not a subscription service, though. You will have to buy games. So a lot of people were confused. They thought it was like going to be like Game
Pay
Pass or
monthly.
PlayStation Now. But that is not the case. So you'll still buy games. But once you have the hardware, like you're apparently set for life. You just need a streaming device and you're good. You don't need a gaming PC. You don't need nothing.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's like what the Oculus Quest is.
Well,
that you
depending
just
on
play.
what games get approved to be pushed through there. I mean, there could still be games you want to play that they don't
Yes.
Yeah.
get the rights to.
And then we can go ahead and wrap up gaming news with The Last of Us Part 2, which I am super excited for. Loved the first one. Got delayed from February 21st to May 29th. The developers, Naughty Dog, said that they could not bring it up to the level that they expect out of their own games, so they needed more time. Which this is the second big studio to come out in about a month that has done a delay like that. And I think good for them. Because, yeah, I think more studios need to be willing to delay a game to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
Which-
No, I think that should always go that way. But I mean, we live in an early access world.
Yep.
In the gaming industry. Well, moving on from gaming news, I haven't seen it yet. I don't think any of us have seen it yet, but the Joker is like insane.
It
Oh,
became the
it's-
top grossing movie
It's crushing it.
ever, which is I really wanted to see it. I do not go to movies on opening weekends. I don't do it.
Yeah,
I
no,
won't do
no.
it. I can't do it.
It's not worth it.
But I do really, really, really want to see this movie, and it is the top grossing rated R movie
Of all time.
of all time.
Ever.
And there was something. Hang on, let me pull it up. Sorry, that's what I was trying to pull up when
Oh, you're fine.
when you brought this up. Is the link to actually 2019 has given the top grossing movies of all time in every age category. PG-13.
So there's just more people going to the movies?
Probably.
Maybe, but also, yeah, okay, so The Joker became the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time worldwide, $785.5 million, surpassing Deadpool 2 was previously the
winner.
Yep. Damn. I was trying to find the okay. So for G rating, 2019 had the highest with for G rated movies, Toy Story 4, highest grossing G rated
we
movie
saw
of all
recently.
time.
It was
really good.
so good. Wait, that was G?
Wait,
We just saw Toy Story 4.
we did just see it.
Yeah.
What the hell happened in there?
It was on Amazon.
I know.
We're like, wow, it's already out.
Remember, it was Forky?
Yeah, Forky.
Oh yeah, Forky.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I remember now. All right, for PG, The Lion King brought
Real
in
good.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Despite the
for
critics.
PG-13, Avengers Endgame.
Okay. I've seen all of these so far.
And R-rated was The Joker. And it says NC-17 is the other rating, still held by Showgirls.
Oh.
That's because almost
Nobody
no
else does.
movie will. Most theaters won't touch an NC-17 film. Like maybe in the 90s, I guess when that came out. Was that the 90s?
Yeah.
they maybe were more willing then, but in today's world, no theater will touch an NC-17 rating.
Well, that makes me really happy that these movies are doing so well. To me, it is a little scary because I like working in a movie theater for so long and they tell you this kind of stuff, but it is true. Movie theaters survived through like depressions, through every economic crisis. People will still go see movies.
Oh, yeah.
They actually thrive when the economy's hurting because most people are more reserved with their money. So instead of going on vacation, they're more willing to go be like, well,
Let's do
let's
something
take
local.
the kids and the family and we'll go to the movies.
Yep.
And they'll go actually more than they normally would during a time like that because, yeah, they're not saving up to go on a trip or something.
Which, kind of concerns me that this year we had all four of the top grossing movies for every category. I wonder total for 2019 how much money was spent in movie theaters. I bet it was pretty astronomical.
Would have to
Granted,
be.
we have had some really good movies come out this year.
It's-
Like really good movies.
And all those movies were, I mean, I haven't seen The Joker, but the others, they were great movies.
Yes.
So I think it's a mixture of Hollywood, there's weird points in Hollywood where they master the current form of filmmaking, and then the movies are amazing, and then new technology comes out, and they got to kind of like figure out how to use
Yes.
it. And I think we're at that point where they have mastered
the
the
technology
new
that exists.
CGI, the way to do it, and the movies are just so good.
Yes.
So good.
That's a good point. Anyway, and all of the scary, we're going to have a scary movie night, you and I,
Ooh.
because I told you Scary Stories
Yes.
to Tell in the Dark. It's on
That-
Amazon
yeah,
now.
that came out fast.
Annabelle comes home. I haven't finished it because I didn't want to finish it by myself. So we're going to have a scary movie
Yes.
little extravaganza, which I'm super pumped.
You guys can do that, and I'm going to talk to myself and play video games.
That sounds about right.
It's about right.
All right. What?
You had that the brewery syndrome. I was really
so
really
I
blown
learned
away
about
by
this.
that.
It was actually in Apple News, if you can believe that or not. Auto-brewery syndrome is something that is being investigated. It's clinically proven. People do have this, but basically, what happens is your body turns, not yours, but this happens in people who have had a lot of antibiotics in their life. It can mess up the natural bacteria and fungi that just occur naturally in your gastrointestinal tract. But anyway, it causes your body to start to turn carbohydrates into ethanol. Literally, your stomach becomes a brewery and you can get drunk off of bread.
Wow.
They found this out because people were getting pulled over for for DUIs.
Yeah.
And 3 people so far have gotten DUIs that have clinically been proven to have this syndrome. They were not under the influence of alcohol at all, but they would be, when they would take a breathalyzer, they would blow over 0.2,
Jeez.
Wow.
which is insane.
So now does it affect them the same as alcohol? Like, are they
Yes.
drunk?
Yes. They will be slurred speech, falling over, the one guy, he became disabled from it because he was
You
like,
would, yeah.
Yeah. So
Or stop eating bread.
His wife said she didn't believe that he was not an alcoholic. She's like, he's secretly an alcoholic. She said she hid cameras in the house and she goes, I would watch him be at home playing video games. About halfway through the day, you could see it progress where it started looking like he was shit-faced and he would start stumbling over. He would get sick. He would he couldn't function. She's like, and
crazy.
it would be, heaven forbid he had pizza. She's like, he would just be fucked up. And I was like, that is nuts.
Oh.
It's like a new kind of celiac disease. Like you can't have bread.
But
gluten.
But what's funny to me is it's not something people have so far, nothing that anybody's been proven to be born with. It's a result of antibiotics over the years. So basically a side effect of too much medication. I think it's funny that no one's ever brought up the side effect of antibiotics and things like that. But we have this huge battle against vaccinations,
Yeah.
which hasn't. Anyway, I won't get into.
Right,
I don't want to have a
right.
fight with an anti-vaxxer today. I'm gonna just be chill. But anyway, It's funny that that's as a result of antibiotics over the years. And antibiotics have been around so long. It has taken this long to show that that severe of a side effect from that. That's why I'm saying, like, with vaping, we were talking about earlier, like, and now, there have been these deaths and everything. It's like, we could not find out until 100 years from now, like, exactly what the effects of vaping are.
Yeah, there's just no way. I mean, until medicine progresses and you figure it out. But we were talking about that. Like, I quit and I don't feel any different. But I was using a very, very low amount of nicotine, but you used it to quit cigarettes. That's different than me just picking it up.
That's why I said I
up.
completely am on board with you guys quitting vaping. I think that's really good. And I've over the years cut back and also cut back on nicotine. But I was a smoker and I know what happens. If I forget my vape and we go on vacation, the first place I stop when we get off the plane is to pick up cigarettes at a gas station, because I'm like, first of all, I just got off of a flight. I'm anxious. I'm hungry. I'm like in a new place. I would like a cigarette, or I would like nicotine. So and I physically can tell the difference in my my chest and my breathing and everything between when I smoke and when I vape. And that's really all the proof I need for me. Eventually, of course, I think obviously not smoking anything is better for you than, I'm not like, oh, vaping is so healthy. I'm so health conscious. I'm like, it's better for me than smoking cigarettes. And I know that because I know the way I feel.
Not according to smokers. They're like, God damn vapes, putting them chemicals in your body. It's like,
whatever.
What the hell you think you're doing smoking formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
Four of them.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehydes, you son of a bitch. Cyanide. Tar.
Oh, God.
Remember that one? That was
antifreeze.
That was thrown down.
Antifreeze.
The anti-smoking campaigns were always tar. You just want tar. You see that road tar on the ground? That's in your lungs. Tar. It's like, it takes a while for that tar buildup, but man, go see Body Worlds.
Oh, no, thank you.
Go see Body Worlds and you'll see like actual lungs the difference between the two. It's like crazy.
Any new thing that comes out, like vaping is relatively new. It's been around for a while, yes, but in the history of it, it's more new than like cigarettes. So we essentially, as human beings living on this planet, we are studies. We are creating our own studies. It's going to take time, and we're participating in it willingly. It'd be nice if we got paid to do it. I'd like to be paid to vape so that they can study the effects of it later, but whatever. We are human studies. Think of back in the 40s, or way later than the 40s, the 70s. People were still smoking inside airports and hospitals.
And airplanes. People smoked on airplanes.
And those are recirculating fans that bring that in, goes through the system, and shoots it out again. So everybody was just like hot boxing planes in the 70s.
But people did that. It was common to smoke in your house, smoke everywhere. No. And now it's like our generation, we look at that and we're like clearly, obviously, you don't even smoke within 50 feet of a hospital. Like know.
And question, when you were a kid, were there still smoking sections in most restaurants?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that I remember is clear as day. I remember we would go out to eat and there would be first thing to ask, smoking or non.
Yep.
And there would be the divide, even though the smoke would blow over half the time.
Yep.
And it's just, if I saw that today, it would just feel weird.
Well, what's funny to me is like I grew up the second half of my life in a small town, very small town. If you go there today, you will get the same question. At least half of the restaurants there have a smoking section.
Yeah, they
because that's my family is full of smokers, and that's the only place they'll go to eat, which
County
sucks
ordinance.
because I don't like the smell of cigarette smoke. Makes me almost completely lose my appetite.
Yeah, unless it's a place like Hot Shots, because their ventilation is top notch, and the place doesn't just smell like an ashtray.
That's true. I don't mind cigarette smoke in a bar though. Like if I'm going there to drink, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. But if I'm going somewhere to have a meal, I'm like, I don't want a cloud of smoke in my face.
What's so strange is that like you'll go into a place like that and there's so much cigarette smoke in there that when you blow a vape out, they just get so upset about it, like, no, clouding up. It's like, you're doing the same thing. But I don't know what it is. Like, I always had an issue with that. It's like, I can't do that. I couldn't just like vape and just go ooh in front for everybody to see. But smokers will do that. They won't even think 2 seconds. They'll be like, they'll take a drag and just go putting it out in the ashtray or whatever, and everybody just gets it.
I'm going to disagree with that. I think that I've seen equally the amount of people who smoke try to be discreet about it and people who vape try to be discreet about it. I personally feel like I've seen more douchey vapors than douchey smokers.
1,000%.
Maybe when I like started college and like I remember there were smoking areas on campus and vaping was not a thing. Like I'd never seen a vape or heard of it ever or an e-cigarette. But I remember people on campus they were really obnoxious about blowing their cigarette smoke everywhere, and that was super annoying. But now that like smoking has become like people fucking frown at you if they see you with a cigarette. Like you feel the judgment if you're smoking an actual analog cigarette now. So they give you dirty looks. So I feel like cigarette smokers are more discreet, where vapors are like
loud and proud.
What? It's
loud and proud.
It's just vapor. It's not gonna hurt you. It's like, okay, but get your fucking clouds out of my face. Like,
I don't want to smell cotton candy while I'm eating my spaghetti and meatballs.
That's true. My spaghetti and meatballs. However, I will say, while I've enjoyed both cigarettes and e-cigarettes, I noticed like Jeff's family is full of smokers as well. We stayed with his mom for a few weeks while we were in St. Louis. And I don't think she was smoking in the house while we were there, but I didn't realize how much cigarette smoke had soaked into the house until we had done our laundry there before we left, washed all of our clothes. I repacked the suitcase. I was like, good, we're going home with clean clothes. I opened up the suitcase when I got here, and it was like somebody blew an ashtray in my face. I was like, holy shit, did it smell like cigarettes in that house? I didn't even notice, but when I opened up my suitcase, it was just so... Oh, are you timing me out? Is this like the Oscars?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Anyway, so I still hold my ground that I prefer vapes over cigarettes, even though some of the crew of them are douchey, which I think is only because younger children are able to get a hold of them, which is something else entirely. I hate kids, so.
The lack of social aspect is what's causing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, guys.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us here on Roommates Podcast. We will not be here for Monday, but Dave will be here.
Yep.
So you're going to get an hour and a half of gaming news?
Yep.
Live on YouTube.
Live on YouTube only. We had to make a decision, and it's time to make that decision, so it is what it is.
Yeep.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.